Signs of passive-aggressive behavior. Recently, I talked about the term passive aggression and exactly, what it means, to show passive-aggressive behavior and how it creates a negative pattern in life. I mean, if you haven't watched the first video of this series, I would suggest that you watch that video as well. Hi there. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Nachi Sinha, and in today's video, I will talk to you about the potential signs of passive-aggressive behavior. Well, I guess take notes of these signs because you never know. Maybe someone in your surroundings might be showing these signs, or maybe it's you. Without further ado, let's start today's video. When somebody struggles with putting disappointment, outrage, inconvenience, or disappointment into words, or they can't communicate it, then they could turn towards a passive-aggressive way of behaving. It's a prominent sort of backhanded approach to communicating feelings through activities. So passive-aggressive way of behaving is often a learned behavior from the past or early stages of life and can be followed back to aggressive ways of behaving displayed by a parent or guardian, or indeed in some past experience. The truth is that anybody can display this behavior, once in a while. And yet, over the long run, persistent passive aggression can erode trust and frequently prompt a negative reaction from others. So you can see how this could create a toxic environment and dysfunctional relationships. For individuals who are consistently, sort of uninvolved in things and are passive aggressive, figuring out how to communicate sentiments in a more useful and productive and healthy manner might prove to be a fundamental step towards building and developing a strong, solid, enduring relationship and close connections. And it's also healthy for them. But the initial step to surviving or managing this behavior is recognizing the signs. And that's what we're going to do today. So here we go. Number 1, stonewalling. Stonewalling happens when somebody stops communication. And it is one of the most toxic signs of passive-aggressive ways of behaving. For relationships, this sign can prove to be the main indicator of separation or divorce. Now, telling somebody that you want space to figure out your feelings is certainly fine, but declining to draw in, without clarification or a simple explanation can show a lack of regard, which can be quite concerning. As a matter of fact, in 2014, a survey found that when in relationships, one person closes down or pulls out in the light of the other's demand, then that dynamic can cause physical and profound harm, and it's related to nervousness, lower relationship fulfillment, less closeness, and less communication. For example, quiet treatment, acting occupied or diverted to keep away from a discussion, and then sort of out of nowhere kind of leaving the room in the discussion. I mean, these are some of the clear signs of passive-aggressive behavior. Number 2, sarcastic or mean comments. Another sign of passive-aggressive behavior is offering mocking or sarcastic comments, which are kind of hurtful in nature. For example, rather than saying it's irritated me that you don't remember my birthday, they would say something like, well, thanks a lot for my wonderful birthday present. Now, both are quite different statements with, negative and positive notions. Passive-aggressive way of behaving is much of the time sort of establish an individual's absence of confidence and feeling of, sort of dread towards struggle, conflict, or dismissal. So sarcasm permits an individual to convey unsettled dissatisfaction and outrage, or maybe disillusionment, without actually getting into a conflict. And that is what people with passive aggressive behavior enjoy doing, or they rather, let me correct myself, find comfort in letting their feelings out through sarcastic comments. Number 3, pretending to agree. So when somebody, verbally agrees with a thought that really irritates them, and afterwards sort of breaks expressed understanding for their own necessities, then that is a type of uninvolved passive aggression. So a person with this kind of behavior can say that things are fine when they aren't. Then, then they kind of sort of sulk or pout about it later on. I mean, that's a clear sign of passive aggression. Like sarcasm, pretending to agree or say yes to things is normally done to avoid conflict. So you might see a lot of people practicing the same behavior in your surroundings, in a family, or even working environment. Number 4, playing a blame game. Now, some people have the tendency to redirect fault instead of getting a sense of ownership for mistakes that they've committed. So they play the blame game rather than taking responsibility for their wrongdoing. Now, such people carry the signs of passive aggressive behavior. Let's assume, so, you sort of offer a random remark about your partner's frequent delays. And they answer by saying, if you didn't create the mess in the house, I'd have had the chance to get out on time. Just sounds like a reasonable example, reasonable only, because it's a reasonable example of passive aggressive behavior. Individuals who impart passive aggression, frequently sort of play the person in question, sort of manipulate, right? On the grounds that it's challenging for them to recognize their own mistakes. They can likewise be unforgiving with the mindset of self-righteousness, holding feelings or grudges that last for a really long time. Really long time. Number 5, silent sabotage. Effectively working in a setting to destroy a person's project, reputation, or relationship is one more sign of passive aggressive way of behaving. Now, such people could do this in a secretive manner, to abstain from sort of seemingly, dependent by spreading sort of gossip and so on. For instance, it can create a sense of insecurity and jealousy. So, some research in 2013 by students and specialists reasoned that passive-aggressive behavior may connect with an internal understanding of values regarding one's worth, especially for power figures. Number 6, deliberately failing to follow through. Now, rebel, that's fine, but being a rebel and intentionally failing to follow through is another sign of passive aggression if it's done in a vicious manner. So rather than voicing their opinion or desire to avoid something, the individual basically doesn't make it happen at all. For example, let's say your flatmate requests that you begin making a garbage run. Now, you don't go inside and out and about directly and say no. However, you additionally make it sure that you don't do it. You see, there's a subtle difference in how a person with such signs can behave differently than others. Intentionally failing or not taking responsibility can contribute to higher levels of passive aggression. And number 7, making excuses. Making excuses is another prominent sign of passive aggression. For example, your friend requests or asks you for assistance in moving. You would kind of prefer not to. However, rather than being straightforward with them, you tell them that you need to work, which might not necessarily be true. And at the point when your friend inquires as to whether you could possibly go the other day, you might end up making an excuse for a family commitment or some other responsibility. Now, this excuse-driven conduct is a clear indication of passive aggression because of the fact that you're trying to not voice your real feelings and reasons, and are trying to manipulate the situation by hiding your real wishes. Well, be the most prominent signs of passive-aggressive behavior that can be spotted easily. Now, many people might experience these signs once in a while, and that's understandable. Life can be challenging and so on, and things happen. But it gets a bit, disconcerting and of concern when it becomes a habit or a consistent process of our daily lives. It also indicates an underlying pathology with regards to mental health. So it's important that you reach out. So, with that being said, you can always change your life for the better. So if you spot any of these signs in yourself or your loved ones, then you don't have to, overwhelm yourself and feel that things can't change. Start with identifying the causes of this specific behavior. Now, it just so happens that in my next video, I will discuss the causes of passive aggression. This is an important aspect of this current series, so hopefully you'll be there to watch it. In the meantime, if you need help or you're struggling with something, please reach out and ask for help. It does make a difference. We'll see you again in the next video. Until then, take care. And thank you. Bye-bye.